Okay, I am not a fabric softener or expert, but I think I gotta keep cutting it the way I was cutting it. Right-handed. Yeah, I know there's those people who just go like that and they cut it. I don't want to try because I'll probably go through the other side of the canvas and try that another day. I am left-handed. All these years I finally find out. Yeah. Okay. Not bad. Ready for the rabbit skin glue. Okay, now we're just going to take old ladder and flip out the tray that used to be the paint tray. Put a drafting table, old drafting table, and a piece of board just so that the canvas doesn't get dented by the drafting table. We're going to set that there. And we all ready for us to put on the rabbit skin glue. Now we just got to go get us a rabbit. I'm gonna shoot a rabbit. I'm gonna shoot a rabbit. Ah! Okay, no rabbits around. We'll have to use the rabbit skin glue we already made. And the rabbit skin glue is going to tighten up this already somewhat tight canvas. Right. When we were last together, we had put the rabbit skin glue and double bagged it in the refrigerator so nobody would open it up, because rabbit skin glue smells pretty bad. And we're going to pour that in the kettle in just a second. But I have to staple one more spot here. I know. You're saying, well, you didn't staple those all really evenly, and the fact is I didn't, because my knuckles kind of get in the way and other things do too. But I have since gone back and put in all nice even staples across the back. Yeah. One more, just so we can be neurotic or obsessive, whichever term we're using nowadays. Okay, we have the little kettle, and this one is a Sure Bonder, and there's a little on-off switch, and you see, you flip it and the light comes on. Did you see that little red light come on? And you can turn it from low to high. We're going to put it on the medium setting, and we're going to put the glue, oh, it smells, in there. And I think we're going to need a trowel to get it out. Maybe not. Maybe, yeah. I could probably actually heat the jar in here, just setting it in here. But I don't know if you're supposed to heat these up without having some substance in them, because I don't want to burn it out. All right, so the rabbit skin glue has been refrigerated, so it's very solid, and we want it to become liquidy. So we'll go make a pot of coffee while that happens. I think you can see that the rabbit skin glue is starting to get a little bit liquefied, and pretty soon we'll be painting it on there. I have some cheapo brushes, but I also have a good quality brush in case I have to use it. I hope I don't. I would rather use the cheapo brushes because they'll be disposed of, but if they shed too much hair, I'm going to have to use the good brush. So, and there's our big Noah's Ark canvas. Yes, our Noah's Ark canvas. It kind of didn't know whether it was coming or going. But you can see it diving on the right there, which is what I originally wanted. So, and you want to know the funny thing is, the top, which was meant to be the bottom, was very square at first, but when I stretched the canvas, it kind of went out of square, so it's debatable as to which is the top and which is the bottom. We'll make it work. You can see I've begun to paint the corner. I'm painting it on an angle, and we will continue to paint it. And being that it's getting dark, we're going to paint the rabbit skin glue on rather quickly, working from the corner as I told you. It's shedding a little bit, but not too bad. So let's not waste any rabbit skin glue. I think I have this a little bit too hot. So what I'm going to do is put another chunk of glue in there, and then we will end up turning it down, turning the heat down a little bit. It's just a little too hot. You don't want to scorch the glue. And you can pretty much see where the glue has gone on. Yeah, we're going to hit the rails on the top. Don't worry. We'll get those. We just want to make sure we've got enough glue for the face of the canvas. But we will get there. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, you're probably wondering, can you repaint it, or can you paint it, can you second coat the rabbit skin glue? And my answer kind of is, I don't know, except I believe that there are people who have restretched canvases. I know that there was one artist who restretched one of Van Gogh's canvases and filled in the spaces where they had exposed canvas by stretching it. So I'm guessing that there was some additional preparational work that had to be done to the canvas for that to happen. I don't remember the name of the artist who did. I think it was actually a rather famous artist. I'll look into that for you. Now, the question is, can you sand this? You can, but I don't think I'm going to want to, because it's important to remember something about oil paint. Although the oil paint's not going directly on top of this, the gesso is. But oil paint does not really have a chemical bond to the subsurface. It has a physical bond, which means that the texture, the porosity is important, because that's what it's bonding to. It's like someone trying to climb up a building using suction cups. There's no chemical bond there. It's just a physical, it's just a physical bond. Capiche? Okay, try to let you see it from this angle. I unplugged the rabbit skin glue so I could plug in my phone. I'm having to juggle a lot of things here because I didn't plan everything quite as nicely as I should have. But I'll tell you this. See, it's shedding. It's not the worst thing in the world, but if you're neurotic or obsessive about things, then it gets bad. Okay. You know, they found grasshoppers inside of some of Van Gogh's painting in the under the oil, under the paint. So I don't think we're going to have any grasshoppers here. Unfortunately, a rabbit. But I'm thinking of hanging this painting out in the garden just to discourage any rabbits from. See what happens to rabbits that raid my garden? Okay. It's happening. It's happening. Yeah, I think we're going to have enough to do this. Okay, we'll get a little closer. Try to get closer without getting rabbit skin glue on my cell phone here, which is my camera. And this will, from my experience, absolutely tighten up the canvas. Yes, it will. And then when it dries in the little pot, it kind of gets like a little skin. No pun intended. And and you can just peel it off. Okay. I'm going to back that off. So you can see that side getting painted. Uh-oh. I'm feeling raindrops. It's not really a good thing. Yeah, the sky is lowering. Okay, I gotta heat up another little chunk of glue. That's gonna happen pretty fast. You know, I didn't think that 22 ounces was, give or take a little bit, was going to be enough. But it is. Of course, the canvas ended up being a little bit smaller than I originally planned. that may have helped matters a little bit. Okay, and now we are at last getting every little nook and cranny here, because we want to be able to gesso the back, the side, all of it. We don't want any of this to not be covered with the rabbit skin glue. We want the whole thing. This pot's getting just a little bit too hot. I gotta turn it down because we don't want to scald and scorch the glue. Just a little bit too hot. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Gotta get the back, gotta get all of it. It's all important. The whole thing. And you know, up near the top here, I ended up getting a tiny bit of color, tiny bit of the ground, which is not good. I don't know how I got it, probably from the ladder here that I used to use as an easel. So I tried to rub that out as best I could, because you really don't want that on your canvas, because that can eat up the canvas. So I think I rubbed it out of there pretty good, I hope. I already did the bottom because you didn't see me do this, but I flipped this over. That's why I was concerned about this little color in there, because that was from when it was against the bottom. Oh well, things happen. Sounds like a hawk. I think he smells the water. It never fails. Every time I go to make a video, somebody's either got to cut the grass. It can be as quiet as all day, as anything. And then someone decides they have to use a ratchet or cut the grass or... Okay, I think that we have covered it pretty well. I think we've done a good job here. Some of the items on the side and the back, we could actually mix up some more if we have to, but I really don't think we're going to have to. I think we're going to look at it and we should be able to work with this from here. You know, you can make gesso also using rabbit skin glue. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it, but I do know you can. Okay, we are going to be applying the second coat of rabbit skin glue. Nice and fresh, still from the refrigerator. So, and I somewhat misled you. I have looked this up. You probably should wear a face mask when applying the rabbit skin glue. I can pretty much guarantee you that a lot of people over the years did not do that. I don't know, maybe that was Van Gogh's problem. Maybe that's kind of why he occasionally lost it. Okay, we're turning on the little heating pot there. Don't cook anything else in it, you know. I mean, like, don't warm up a stew or anything in there. It's really too shallow to do that anyway. It's only about 1.25 inches deep, if you can see that. So, here I am with my face mask on, ready to apply the rabbit skin glue. And you can see, they said put the 2 coats on thin. Well, you can see I've got it kind of dribbling here a little bit. So I put it on kind of thin, but it dribbled, and I didn't brush it out real well. But I do not think that's going to be a problem, because I have looked into this, and you can put a second coat on. In fact, you're advised to put a second coat on, and you can put it on within just a few hours. Now, this has been sitting here for about 10 hours, but it's still a little bit tacky wherever it's thick. So you can apply it within a few hours, the second coat, but then you are advised to let it dry for at least 24 hours before you paint it. Well, I'm going to let it dry for longer than that because I'm working on another painting. So we are going, am I recording you? Me? Us? Yes, okay. So, we are going to use a back filler, because I don't know where I put my margin trowel, and I'll find it. I always find them. Okay, and we are scooping the refrigerated rabbit skin glue into the little warming tray, the Surebonder warming tray. Oh, I don't think you saw me do that. Okay, well, we'll do it again. Okay, so we are putting the little refrigerated chunks of rabbit skin glue into the warming tray, and we're going to let that warm up. My back filler does have a little bit of dried paint on it, oil-based paint, but that's okay, because none of it's coming off on the glue anyway. But evidently you can make a gesso out of rabbit skin glue and ground, you know, the oil-based ground. So if some tiny microscopic amounts of this paint got in the rabbit skin glue, it wouldn't be a problem. Now, as I told you, we can put a second coat on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock off some of these spots where it dribbled a little bit. So I have some heavier kind of dribble spots. Just going to knock them off. And anything that won't get knocked off, I'm not going to work it too hard, because we're going to put the warm rabbit skin glue. It may incorporate it into it. If we end up with some bumps, we can sand them out. It's not a problem. And there's a human hair in there. I don't know how that happened. I'm sure it's happened before. Okay. Okay, here we go. We are painting. We're dipping in the rabbit skin glue inside the little warming pot, and we are brushing it on thin for our second coat. And I have the dial, the warming dial, set to about halfway between off and hot. We don't want to start boiling this glue. That you don't want to happen. Okay? So I am brushing this out. I think you can see that. I hope. I'm brushing this out. And this cheapo brush is not shedding, which is a good thing. I should have been wearing this mask yesterday. I wasn't, so I am today. Hopefully you're following me through. Incidentally, the mask recommendation was a recommendation. It wasn't, when I read it, it didn't say this is an absolute must, you will die if you don't do it. It was a recommendation, and so I'm taking it that way. Problem with wearing the mask is you don't get that delicious fragrance of the rabbit skin glue. I'm joking. It's not a delicious fragrance. Okay, you can see the little pot that I'm pulling it out of. It's an awful fragrance. It's an awful smell. What I have read is that not all rabbit skin glue is made from rabbit skin. Some is made from other animal hide. So, you know, you remember the old stories of horses when they got old, we're going to go to the glue factory. Well, I think that's
kind of the idea that glues can be made from a variety of animal hides, and supposedly the better one are ones that are made, guaranteed to be made from RSG or rabbit skin glue. But you can buy what is supposedly rabbit skin glue RSG that may have sheep, hogs, goats, and supposedly the difference in quality, from what I have read, is that the glue made from hides, from the skin, is much better than if there are hooves and bones in it. The hooves and bones make a lesser quality glue. Okay? That's what I've read. And of course, we all remember reading that certain gelatins that we would consume were made from horses' hooves. And I think there might have been some truth to that. Probably actually good for you because of the calcium, but strange thought anyway. Okay, back to Noah's Ark. So we're preparing a canvas to do Noah's Ark. And if you followed with me, you know that I accidentally, on purpose, made it so that the canvas is tapered to one side, and that is supposed to reflect the length of the huge length of the ark going into the distance. It was kind of an accident, but I liked it, so I'm sticking with it. Now, originally, this was square on the bottom, and I put a square on it, and I doweled it and glued it, and it was square. But I got to tell you, this rabbit skin glue pulls so hard, and I was told that it pulls hard, that it actually was able to somewhat change, without bending or harming the stretchers, it slightly changed the angle so that they are both, the bottom and the top are both tapering together at the same rate, at the same angle. How that happened, I don't know. It's as if the glue on the canvas insisted, no, we are going to pull this so it tapers at exactly the same angle, and it does now. So it doesn't matter at this point which is the top or which is the bottom. Now, I will say, when I doweled it, the dowels were pretty tight, but you know, with wood, there's always a little bit of give and take here and there. And this glue, it just pulled it very tight. I'm even told that people, if you apply this rabbit skin glue over a sheet of glass, it will actually break the glass into like even little interesting fragments, but they're solid underneath the glue, but it's like they're broken into even, so it obviously has pretty strong pull to it. And there's no synthetic sizing for preparing your canvas that has the natural pull strength of animal hide glues. Now, they have a downside, the animal hide glues. They absorb moistures, and if the area is real moist, they absorb the moisture and then they release the moisture, because that's the nature of the animal hide, to dry and release the moisture. And they do this over and over again. So what happens is your painting is microscopically shrinking and expanding. And that's why on a lot of these old, historically old paintings, you will see this little kind of like eggshell cracking in it. I always kind of like that, but actually that is not good for the painting. Okay, I just turned the heater down because I see it's not bubbling, but it's really kind of steaming. So I don't want it to be too hot. Okay, and it starts getting tacky right away here. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit more of the RSG that came out of the fridge into the pot. Now, back to talking about Noah's Ark. This is important for you to know this. If you will research Noah's Ark, and if you will start with the Bible's description of how old certain people were when they died, and you know, in what year of a certain person's life, a progenitor's life, they were born, you'll find an interesting thing happens. And you can use the Bible, but also use Josephus, because he gives you some insight into this. So use the Bible together with Josephus. And I was convinced, because of my deciding to work on Noah's Ark, I was convinced, I'm ashamed to say, that I thought I was going to find a mistake in the Bible. Because we know that Lamech died at 777 years old. That perfect number of 777. Well, I thought, you know, I'm going to make a little timeline and a graph of who begat who, and when they begat them, and when Noah's Ark came, and when the rains came. And I'm going to find that Lamech was actually alive when the flood came and died 3 years later. But there's no mention of him being on the ark. Well, that's not what happened. I did the timeline. I've never read of anyone doing this, but I did the timeline charting, and I just used the Bible and Josephus, and I charted who begat who, and when they begat them, and when they were born, and when they died. And lo and behold, Lamech died 5 years before the flood hit the earth. So, great, righteous, honorable Lamech was spared having to go through. He was the son, I believe, of Methuselah, the father of Noah, and Methuselah, I believe, was the grandfather of Noah. I'll check into that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. Okay, we don't want to start boiling this, so I got to turn this down. All right. And it happens that Lamech died, according to the biblical timeline, Lamech died before the flood. So he was spared the flood. He was spared. Okay, I got to turn this way down. It's getting a little too hot. So yes, Lamech was spared. So you will find that the numbers in the Bible are much tighter than anybody would ever lead you to believe. Uh-oh. Not that hair would have been a problem, but I think it would have belonged in there just fine. Okay, now I've got to lift this up a little bit because I got to paint that. And I've let this bubble just a little bit. It's totally off now. That's probably not the best thing for it, but I think we're going to be okay. Okay, we go all the way across the top now, because we want the rails, we want the edges that lap over the stretchers, we want them to be covered with the glue too, because that's where moisture can come in. So yes, Lamech died. There's a lot of other numbers that start becoming significant in the whole flood scenario. And I'm going to share those numbers with you. They are numbers that have to do with epiphany and realization. So we got a lot of interesting numbers that are going to come in here. Okay, I got to paint the edges here. Paint the edges really good. I'm calling it paint, or I guess you're painting it on, I suppose we'd have to say, because it is rabbit skin glue. Okay, and yeah, it did start to bubble just a little bit, and I turned it down because you don't want to boil your rabbit skin glue. You just want it hot and melted. Whoops. See what happens there? Because I took that out of that frame there, that holder. Okay. And now we will continue to paint the back side of this. And now I'm gonna flip it upside down with my bare fingers, getting that all over myself. That's okay. Just hoping my fingers don't end up sticking together and someone has to pry me apart. All right, slide that down. These old ladders work really well for this. Just a suggestion to you. Okay, now that the surface of my patio has been sealed with rabbit skin glue, I don't think any rain or salt is going to hurt it. Okay, so I have taken the face mask off because it's already starting to get tacky. You can see that I have some pretty good coverage here, and I did let it dribble a little bit. I'm going to have to sand that off. But the back, there are spots that didn't get really covered real well, but I'm not worried about that. The sides, I got them really good. The sides, the top, and the bottom, I got good. Some that wraps the back, I didn't. And I think it's still important to get that. But what I'm going to do is, while this is drying, I'm allowed 24 hours, I think, before I start painting. Well, I'm not going to start painting in 24 hours. So I'll make up another little batch of rabbit skin glue. I'm using up much more than I thought, but that's okay. And I'm not going to paint any more of the front because that's been really well covered. I'm going to make up just enough to recover the back and the sides of the rails there where it wraps around the stretchers. And we want that to be covered well because a lot of people, myself included, don't put frames around their paintings. I do sometimes, but oftentimes don't. So you want your edge of your painting, you want it to be painted because you want to protect it from moisture. So whatever paint you're done painting your painting with, you take your back filler and just make sure, or your brush, and hit the sides and lap it a little bit so that if any moisture hits the sides or drips down on the top, it won't wick into your painting and get underneath the painting on the canvas. It could. So it's, even if you're not nuts about the style, start to like it. It's important to get the sides and the back not only treated with the rabbit skin glue, but if you're using gesso, with the gesso and with the oil paint. Now, rabbit skin glue is incompatible with latex. So do not use a latex gesso on top of it. You're going to want to either make your own gesso as an oil-based gesso
And there are different people online who show you how to do that. I may do it too and reveal all my mistakes to you, as I always do. And but you can paint directly on the rabbit skin glue if you've given it 2 coats. You can oil paint directly on that. From what I have been reading and studying, and there's some people who love it. They like it more than something that's been covered with gesso. As a matter of fact, if the gesso isn't done just right on top of the rabbit skin glue, it can cause cracking. So this painting, I've done others where I've done the rabbit skin glue and then put an oil-based gesso and painted on top of it. I'll show you one of those paintings. But this one, I'm just going to go paint right on top of the rabbit skin glue, and there's nothing I've read yet that indicates that that's a bad thing to do. So if you think otherwise, let me know.